Today, officials announced that Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, will be demolished in the wake of last month's shooting, with Mayor Don McLaughlin telling reporters, quote, "You can never ask a child to go back or a teacher to go back in that school ever." Investigations into Uvalde police's response to the massacre continue to spark massive and justified outrage. McLaughlin says the city cannot release sensitive information related to the shooting at this time, claiming the city's lack of transparency is intended to protect the investigation's integrity, which is BS. He also confirmed the city will not release police body cam video. Also outrageous. Yesterday, the Texas Department of Public Safety strongly condemned the police response as a, quote, abject failure.
There's compelling evidence that the law enforcement response to the attack at Robb Elementary was an abject failure and antithetical to everything we've learned over the last 2 decades since the Columbine massacre.
Yeah, there's no way you can mince words about this. There's no language that is too strong, not just because of the actual malfeasance, but because now looking back at those early days of disclosures from the Uvalde Police Department, it's just lie after lie after lie that they've been caught in. There's a complete lack of confidence here. And I don't know how anybody in this moment could, one, be defending increasing funding to departments like this when departments who have had all of this funding, who have SWAT teams, literally stood in a hallway before a potentially unlocked door with full battle gear, expensive equipment that was life protecting, and chose not to go in and save the lives of
They should be like
19
exiled
kids.
to Antarctica. I mean, this is just so contemptible, so craven, such a failure that people died because of it. And again, they had the training. They can't say, well, we don't know how to handle a situation like this. Maybe you could have said that at Columbine when there was not the police waited outside. They didn't understand what this kind of situation calls for. Now we know. Yeah. We have 20 years of this kind of thing. Number of incidents. We know. And they were trained. They were told, here are the instructions. Here's what you do. Put your body in front of the bullets as fast as possible if you're the police. And they didn't do it. They didn't try the door. It might have been unlocked. Or I'm not sure if we have confirmation it was unlocked. It very well might have been unlocked. They had the shield. We can see from the body cam from the surveillance footage. They had the shield.
Yep.
And there's more. You want to read this new wrinkle?
More horrifying details about what happened inside Robb Elementary School continue to shock us. We now know that Eva Morales, one of the 2 teachers killed, called her husband as she lay shot and dying and asked him for help. Her husband, a police officer for the Uvalde School District, then attempted to move toward the classrooms where Morales was trapped. However, other officers on the scene detained him, took his gun away, and escorted him out of the room.
So he was doing what you're supposed to do, which is go rush the shooter, fearing correctly for his wife's life. She died, possibly because help did not come fast enough. I mean, that's the thing. Like in this situation, the people in that room are shot and dying. Some of them dead, some of them still alive. Some later died in the hospital, on the way to the hospital. And they're just standing around. They're just standing around while people who had loved ones in danger, like that police officer, like the parents outside, tried to help, and then the on-scene commander and others were like, no, we got this, but they didn't get it.
Yeah, to the extent that any of these law enforcement officers deserved a presumption of good faith, it's long gone. It's long gone. I'm sorry. And now we're inclined to, I'm personally, I'll speak for myself, inclined to believe every bad fact that comes down the transom, obviously, in my personal capacity, not here, because so far, pretty much every one of them has borne fruit. Every trickle of new information that makes the cops look very, very bad has borne fruit. And frankly, when I go back to our first days of coverage and look at all the benefit of the doubt we are extending to the cops, I'm almost embarrassed by it because they didn't earn it. And in fact, I don't know, it would be hard to design a worse outcome than this.
You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe failure on this level was possible. There's not we don't have the right framework to punish this level of wrongdoing. They should be exiled to Antarctica or something.
I wonder if we're going to start to hear from folks
what if you're this police officer who was held back, whose wife died, possibly because you couldn't get to her fast enough, and you were held back? I mean, how do you even recover psychologically from something like that?
Because there's this element of, okay, fine, I'll trust the authority figures, I'll trust the members of my own department. I understand, you could think to yourself, I understand that there are protocol and that I could actually disrupt the efforts to save these folks if I were to rush in and become a distraction. Okay, so fine, I'll let them to it. But that's, to me, the real tragedy of this. The idea that people who were willing to do the brave thing deferred to the police officers, deferred to the authority, believing them when they said that they had it.
Right.
And then to be confronted with that footage of them standing around in the hallway.
Every rush in and attack the shooter is actually the right thing to do. It's actually what the recommendation is. The recommendation is not, okay, let's take our time, let's get this right, let's take stock of the situation, let's make sure we got all the gear. Is that door locked? Well, let's get a key in here just in case. Do we have snipers? Do we have more body armor? Do we have more shields? Do we have more backup? Do we have more people? That is not what you're supposed to do. That's not what you're supposed to do. And then they try to call to him. You can't reason with this kind of person in this scenario.
Right.
It's never been shown.
Where they asked the student to speak
they asked
up.
The students, are you still?
And the student called out, and then that student got shot as a consequence. Which is all against protocol to ask the students to vocalize. I don't know, man.
Real bad. Yeah. What can you say? What is left to be said?
And we're going to keep hearing more because I suspect we're going to hear more from family members. More details will emerge. I'm especially interested to hear from this widow cop because he probably has some significant insights into what's going on in the department. And frankly, the fact that there were so many people on the scene and the uniform response, that all of these police officers basically apparently followed their order not to go into the room. It almost feels like a Milgram experiment situation where, there's somebody who authoritatively must have been saying, don't do the obvious thing that we should do. And I know that people have to be really, really wrestling with their own personal demons as they question why it's what seemed so clear at the time in retrospect, Monday morning quarterbacking wasn't the course of action. But we will continue to cover this story as details emerge.
We're horrified for whatever is next, but we will cover it, whatever it is.
And we'll have more Rising for you after this.